even though I hate this bit.
I do too. I do
Which I
too.
know
I have
you're
to
gonna do
admit,
it more
but I
because
know
you don't
exactly.
like it.
That's why I haven't said anything.
So what you guys would like me to do is do this while I'm waiting for it to just go like this.
That's perfect. In fact,
No,
hold on, let me screenshot that. I'm gonna make that my wallpaper. What are you grumbling about? We're not allowed to have opinions here?
Yeah, your opinions suck.
My opinion is I love Purdue basketball. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've ever doubted this program.
Good start.
Are we live, Lee?
Yep, you're on.
Is Anish here? Did we lose
Yes. No, we're here.
Anish!
Go ahead.
And Boiler Dowd and Jay here for the, what is this? A Handsome Hour Basketball Beat 94. Throwing it back to 1994.
Are there 94 Handsome Hour Basketball Beat composite shows?
Let's not worry about the analytics behind this.
Purdue is in the Sweet 16 as usual. I'd just like to remind everyone, Purdue, 5 of the last 7 tournaments has been in the Sweet 16. But before I remind people of that, I'd like to thank our shirt sponsor. None of us are wearing a shirt.
None of us are wearing.
None of us are. It's fine.
But I don't think you could deny these are gorgeous shirts. There's not a bad looking shirt in the view.
Not in this
in the
group
view
today.
right now.
No.
I'd like to thank our friends at Home Field Apparel and our Boiled 23. Check out and get 15% off. I think.
15.
Nothing makes sense anymore. I've lost track. Still talking about 2023. 2023 is in the past, man. That was erased this weekend.
So yesterday.
Boiler Dad's wearing a Poppins Pub shirt. Shout out
He's
CJ
here.
Poppins.
I thought he would notice without saying, but
I'm wearing my not pajama button-up. Boiler Dad asked me if this was a pajama shirt. It is not. It is a button-up dress, not a dress shirt, a short sleeve, sort of Floridian.
It's like a beach shirt. It's like a Hawaiian.
Pretty
shirt.
good for, I don't know, would look good in Phoenix, wouldn't it?
I don't know. It'd be
Kind
nice.
of a perfect like retiree looking shirt.
yes,
right.
Yes, yeah.
A
You
nice
gotta unbutton
tropical
it one more
location.
time though, and put a gold chain on that thing.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that would be really good.
And this
Maybe
is
a medallion on the end of it.
This is my victory cigar for the first 2-game tournament. I love the way you broke that down. I think that's
loved
perfect.
it. I love it.
3
Yes.
2-game tournaments. In fact, I just want to win 2 2-game tournaments. I'm not
Right.
greedy.
We're not,
Give
yeah,
me
we're
2,
not-
and I'm not saying I don't want to win then. I'm simply saying that then, okay, we've talk about the pressure. We talked about this in the weeks leading up to this, that first game was going to be the anxiety monster heavily.
Yeah.
And then, assuming you win that, I know we all talked about, man, it'd be fun to see these guys totally unburdened, totally loosened up.
We saw
And
it.
man, is that what we just saw in round 2? Do you think?
I think so.
Had to play into it, right? Now it's like now we're going to have fun.
Right.
I mean, they're still very focused,
Yeah.
but all that crap.
But what
is
they
gone.
did, I think this is a combination of factors. Number one, if you look at the first 10 minutes, whatever, 10 minutes, right? Purdue really wasn't in full stride yet. But watch the body language of multiple Utah State players as the game starts slipping. I think I said they ripped their soul out. I think that was the thing. They were broken, like completely broken, and they didn't think they could get it back. They didn't believe they could get it back. I don't think anybody on their sideline thought they had any chance. When Purdue extended that 9-point lead to 16 in like a couple minutes, right? And Edey was starting to just look like a thoroughbred. Their big man couldn't do anything right, and Martinez was completely shut out of the game. That was it. It was over. And then Purdue started doing everything right off the bench. You didn't have to rely on Edey in the 2-man deep post game. I mean, goodness gracious.
Didn't have to use Edey much at all after halftime.
Nope. 26 total minutes of play.
Two
Pretty
points
awesome.
of the 57 they scored in the second half. What I love too is all the narratives it's been detonating. That free throw merchant, narrative that's just never been true, but it's especially was, you can't. Purdue scored 106 points. The people who there's actually some continuing to be moron fans, many of whom I have to say, almost all of whom are Big Ten fans. So one more reason.
I'm seeing Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State.
Yep. And I saw a YouTube, a much smaller, like a guy trying to get off the ground, I think, doing it very much like a sleepers type of thing where he's analyzing games, giving previews and recaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm going to give this kid a watch.
Sure.
And he said, unfortunately, Purdue just plays a really ugly brand of basketball.
Yeah.
And I commented, I said, well, what's ugly about it? Like, They just won a game scoring 106 points against the 20th ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
They shot 55% from the floor and 48% from three. What you can't that you have to change your biases. You have to admit that they exist and say, okay, maybe this isn't true, because this had nothing to do with ugly basketball. There was nothing ugly about it. And I would admit it. Virginia won a title playing the ugliest basketball.
That's truly ugly basketball, right?
Right.
We know what it looks like.
Trying to win 50 to 49.
The final game playing ugly basketball. That actually, Wisconsin went to the final game. They were playing a decent.
I was going to say that's the one Wisconsin. That's the one window of Wisconsin basketball that's actually tolerable, right?
That's not fair. That's not fair. I'm wrong. I was wrong. So,
no, but it is. First of all, the people that complain about it are complaining about the way that other teams play Purdue, not the way that Purdue plays.
And they don't understand that.
I don't get it. And that the other thing that I keep, and it's every game in the post-game press conferences, you'll hear this, is that it's never the players that they just played Zack Edey, or Purdue. It's never the coaches that just coached against them. It's never Jay Wright, like the pinnacle of college coaching in the last decade.
Right? Yeah.
It's always kind of people looking to increase their audience, or it's always people who are just kind of watching. And even then, they're not kind of like diehards watching. Like, if you look at all the diehard numbers, if you look at all the people that break down tape, every one of them calls Matt Painter and PJ Thompson now. I mean, they're like really good offensive basketball, really creative offensive play callers. And so it's like, I don't get it. I mean, like, again, you look at free throws attempt, like free throw rates or free throws per field goal attempted, right? Free throw attempted per field goal attempted. And it's, Purdue is pretty high there, but that's because every pregame, I think Boiler Dad posted this. It was in one of the BS replies, but like every pregame, the coach is like, "We're going to beat up Zack Edey, and we have to." And I get it. I also get it. Like, that is the only way you can play Edey, because if you don't, he's going to dominate. And the consequence of that is that you send Edey to the foul line. That isn't Purdue's style of play. That is always Purdue's opponent, right? And I don't get it. I mean, like, and then, I don't know, Mark Titus has been doing this thing where it's like calling Purdue ugly basketball and then being offended that Purdue fans.
I'm sick of his whole bit.
Exactly.
I really am. I'm sick of it.
Well, hey, what a coincidence. I used to think
he was funny, but I don't think it's funny anymore.
What a coincidence. He went to Barstool and now he's become kind of completely intolerable.
I didn't know that.
And so it's very much like, everybody kind of online saying that, or like all of these kind of announcers or whatever, analysts saying, Purdue plays ugly, slow basketball. And then Purdue fans saying, no, actually they don't. Like, it is the other team playing Purdue that drags the game into the mud. And then it becomes like, oh, Purdue fans are sensitive. And it's like, I don't, like, what do you talk? Okay, fine. Yeah, fine then. Say what you want and we will just keep winning. That is enjoyable. But I don't get, like, that's the part of this that isn't, it just doesn't.
Didn't they just set a record too? Didn't they have like a 1.48 points per possession?
Yeah.
It was like not set. Was it it was some sort of absurdly high number, right? Do I have that right? I think it was like almost 1.5 per possession. Which is
and
insane.
watch. It will be the same people that complain about the death of the post in modern basketball. It'll be the same people that say that modern basketball players aren't tough, that they can't bang down low, that they can't do all of this. But when you see actually the perfect hybrid of modern college basketball pace and space with an old school throwback big who can play in the style of modern basketball, it's all of a sudden different. Like, I don't quite understand. Doesn't really make much sense.
So how much do you think, the hatred, we talked about this last show too, but the hatred is it's like a wildfire. It's gaining steam, whatever.
Do you think it is?
It's not. I don't think so.
I don't know.
No, I think it's online. I think it's completely online, which is
the reminder that Twitter is not real life.
Exactly.
And
it's not just on Twitter, guys.
Where are you seeing it? Because I don't think
Instagram. I'm seeing it on freaking LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's online. It's extremely online.
Yeah, but I think it's the same people. I think it's the same.
I think that's all the same person. Like, I just
no.
saw all of them.
No. I mean, Michigan State, Wisconsin, like those whiny.
Why does that make it any less real?
I just don't think it's as pervasive as my answer to what you're saying. You're saying it's growing. I think it's the same not same people, but the same fan bases. I don't
like
think
hive mind. Yeah.
Yeah, Hive. I don't think. I mean, I think that the media still loves Painter and still wants to see them win, and it doesn't matter, right? I mean, I know you don't give a like. Who cares? Hate him, right?
Right.
Who
I
cares?
want him to hate
because
him now. Like,
because
I'm
we've
like,
been here all along.
hate him.
Every Purdue fan has been there all along, and it's one of the things that we've talked about in the past, and I've always loved about being part of the Purdue community is that nobody. You said it, I think, years ago. There's no casual Purdue fans. There's nobody who's like, I grew up in Lafayette, so I'm a Purdue fan. I shouldn't say that. Anisha's, probably got a connection to Purdue.
I met two at AJ's
that are from Lafayette, and as a result, they're like Purdue.
They're not. I don't think.
Right, but it's not
nearby.
But it's not a city like Columbus, right?
Yeah.
It's not a place like.
I don't know if Todd's going to tune in tonight. And Mohill 93. Both of those guys are they're born.
But it's not Northern Indiana. You know what I mean? If you grew up in Northern Indiana, you're a Notre
It's like the
Dame
people who
fan.
grew up in Ohio and are like, well, I'm just an Ohio State fan because I grew up in Ohio. Like, what? Right? Like, that's Purdue fans are there, and the vast majority went to Purdue, and that's why they care about them. And I love being a part of that. And there's nobody, like, I don't care. Hate them. It made that win, honestly, it was so fun to hear stupid people taking shots at Purdue online the last day or two, because this is a case where you can't take a shot at anything. Like I just rattled off, the stats do not suggest it was ugly. They don't suggest it was a fluke. They don't suggest it was Edey getting all the calls. Like there's none of those narratives hold any water. And it's not like Purdue beat bad teams. Grambling State was for a 16. They were a hell of a lot better than FDU. Hell of a lot better team than FDU.
100 higher.
And
right?
Yeah, way more athletic, way hungrier, way better team. And Utah State, which I thought, okay, Purdue got the best 8-9 that they could have asked for, I thought. But Utah State, as you pointed out, was 20th in the country.
Yeah.
Well coached, played real basketball. I watched your postgame, and somebody made a great point in there, and you agreed with them. They didn't play a crappy brand of basketball. They weren't dirty. They weren't hitting after the whistle. It was a really respectable. They had no problem. They knew, okay, we're gonna try this.
You guys saw Johnny Hill is on the coaching staff there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, that's something I didn't talk about at all in my post game.
No.
I thought that was freaking awesome. I don't know if you saw PJ and he dabbing it up like before and after the game.
Ray Davis was giving him a hard time. He was texting him beforehand. I love that stuff. And
Painter was talking about it. He was saying that I think pregame he was saying that what have I talked to him about? I tried to get him to not be a coach, but then once he insisted on being one, I've tried to help him kind of whatever I can. And spoke kind of glowingly, about him. Grambling State's head coach, I don't think has ever has a close relationship with Painter, but he spoke glowingly of him, and he talked about Painter.
He talked to him at multiple coaching clinics and things like that, right? Yeah, cool.
Being like an informal kind of mentor at these kind of these clinics. I mean, and then you got the kind of the fake gotcha question, that for a more experienced reporter rather than a student reporter may have been phrased a little bit differently, but that didn't work. And Painter gave that kind of perfect response that really praised Danny Sprinkles. But Sprinkle.
So do you think Johnny Hill travels with Sprinkle to his next job in Washington?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I think so, because from what Johnny Hill was saying, Pete Guy's naming dudes guy in Johnny Hill. Like 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about Johnny Hill, and it'll be incredible in a setting like J Money is right now.
Yeah, awesome.
But I think Sprinkle played against a team where Johnny Hill was an assistant coach while he was at Montana State, while he was in the Big Sky, and that is how they connected, and then they ended up there. So I bet he could end up back in the Big Ten, man. That'd be fun.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
a Big Ten rivalry.
I also like what Sprinkle said too, which was what I think a lot of coaches maybe haven't said outright, but because you're never going to say in a post game or even a pregame, you're never going to say, well, here's how you beat Purdue, but they do know the formula. You try to you go after Edey, you try to limit what he can do, and you hope the rest of the team doesn't hit shots, right? That's how FDU won. So when Purdue's had losses, that's usually what happens. And and Sprinkle acknowledged that. He said, we were going to try to play Edey tough. And he goes, but the problem is when you kick it out and those guys start hitting shots.
They collapsed 4 many times. Many times.
But I respect it because he's thinking, okay, if we do this and it limits Edey and they don't hit, now we've got a chance, right? You have to start the avalanche somehow, right? And it just didn't happen. And then he made a good point. He said, we played well for 10 or 12 minutes. I mean, we held it close, and then they stopped hitting shots.
Yeah.
right? That's the other thing. The other part of that formula is you also have to hit shots.
What's funny, there's like a runs metric, so it's like how many times you actually go on a kind of scoring run. And what's funny is that Purdue, like they map it against like offensive efficiency and like how much you give up runs. Purdue doesn't give up any. And Purdue doesn't actually go on that many. Purdue just bludgeons you to death. Like this is what, like that is Purdue's offense. It's consistent and it kind of this year. And that's a huge difference. Obviously for the Purdue fans that have been with us this far, that's the big difference between Purdue last year, Purdue this year. It is just a constant kind of offensive barrage. We credited that to Braden Smith's growth, but Braden Smith saw some bench time in key minutes in the first half against Utah State, and Purdue's offense was still rolling. I thought that was really good. I mean,
that was probably my favorite thing of the game.
You talk about, I mean, like Fletcher Loyer had a great game. I thought last night, again, the stat line won't necessarily say it, but I thought he was in like very much control. He was confident. He was everything that we want to see that he wasn't last year against FDU and like late, basically any time after January. Yeah. And then off the bench, man, Myles and Heide, like all of a sudden, I know you're talking about Painter sandbagging them, during the thing, but I do think it takes that much longer. And I did like the theory about, if you don't hit the freshman wall, if you don't play that much.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't thought about that. I was like, that's fun. If we really want to dig into conspiracy, let's go.
But I'd actually love to see, if Cobra's here, I'd love to see some stats on that. But like, I do think that Painter's system is pretty complex, and especially for Myles, who this is his true freshman year. It was unexpected for him to even for as talented as he is, to absorb it this quickly, and he has, and now he's a real contributor. And then, that last game was like everything that we wanted from a Trey Kaufman-Renn game, right? Which was just like aggressive, confident, like sure hands, like good defense, and then was scoring and cleaning up, was hitting free throws. Like, after everything that dude has done for the team, which is like, he was a consensus 4-star, like, I think he was somewhere ranked in like 50s, 60s, maybe like 40s through 60s, something like that, in the country. He redshirted. To do that, to be let's say a top 75 recruit, and to willingly take a red shirt and then willingly take the back seat for 2 years, like, it's like, I was really just happy to see him get that.
So, is it too early to look at Gonzaga? Should we talk a little bit more about Purdue? Because I'm ready to talk about Gonzaga.
The only other thing I'll say, you guys just brought up Braden Smith and the team humming along even when he wasn't in. Braden Smith has not played a very good tournament yet, and I'm not worried about it. I'm just saying he hasn't had his game yet.
Yeah, I think Dowd kind of touched on this in the post game yesterday, but I don't know if you wanted to actually say this out loud. I don't think Purdue's played anywhere near as good as Purdue can play. No. I think Purdue can play a lot worse. Like, I think that there is
of course,
like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not that they're playing at the baseline, but and so that has me worried, like, going forward, playing the next 4 good
all
teams,
of them are showing, led by Edey. Like, that's not an act. You can tell when teams are like kind of trying to put on it, like they are resolved and resolute, as Boiler Dad would like to say.
Yeah,
could they lose? Of course. Any team left is good, right?
Oh yeah.
But what have we said? I mean, I said it to you guys, like, I've been saying this for like a year. When was the last time Purdue lost to a good team? The truth is they play their best against good teams. Yeah. So maybe we said it a few too many times, because now we're getting what we.
I don't know. I'm nervous, man.
You got good team. You got nothing left but good teams.
Oh yeah,
right.
Playing well.
But that's what the Dan Patrick show. Wally Zerbiak is making the rounds. He's been on Rome.
I saw his appearance there today. He was pretty complimentary of Purdue.
He was very complimentary of Purdue, almost like he doesn't want anybody to know how dumb he sounded when he picked against them twice.
That's it.
I mean, like, and the other thing, the things he says are really easy statements. And if you really dig at them, you're like, okay, that's not really that smart. But he's an example that you can get by just being like somewhat handsome and not being very good at your job.
Yeah,
I did like Dan Patrick was talking about his dad being a coach. Did you catch this? And he goes, did your dad also not play any defense? Wow. It's like Dan can get away with that kind of stuff. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's, Anish and I went back and forth in a quick exchange on the sidebar, and I was confident, and I still am confident. I like Purdue versus Gonzaga for a couple of reasons, but I think Gonzaga is dangerous as hell if you let your guard down.
I mean, they're great. Yeah, they're great
playing their best.
Or I was going to say that's what we should say.
That team was talked about
this year.
About them maybe not making the tournament like a month and a half ago, because they were looking a little shaky, and then they just went on an absolute tear.
They're playing their best ball, but they lost during in the finals, I think it was, or the semifinals. I don't know.
Of their tournament, they lost St. Mary's.
The strange kind of tournament that basically puts them into the quarterfinals.
Them and St. Mary's in the final automatically.
Yeah, exactly. But they've
9-game win streak before that.
I mean, they've been playing excellent
I think, Boiler, for all your disdain of Gonzaga, I feel like you've acknowledged many times that Skeletor is a very good coach, though.
Oh yeah, he's a good coach, no doubt, and he's really good at finding talent where other people don't find it. I mean, I think he's a good coach. I'm not gonna, and he's a great in-game coach.
Oh yes,
but the thing that I do not respect about Gonzaga still exists, and that's the fact that they play in that conference. I mean, I'm sorry. I look at that schedule and you can say, okay, well, they won 9 straight. Purdue won 9 straight. That's Purdue's best streak. Let's look at their streak if you want to really talk about that. Portland State's in that, or Portland, whatever they call them now.
But to be fair, a Kentucky away game is also in that streak, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good if you got the Kentucky that was good. I mean, Kentucky clearly wasn't thinking about playing defense that day.
But wasn't it at Kentucky, though?
Yeah, it was at Kentucky.
Yeah,
it was at Kentucky. I mean, that's still pretty.
I'm telling it's a good game, but Loyola Marymount, Pacific, Portland, Santa Clara, San Francisco. Then they play St. Mary's, and they go back to San Francisco. Okay, congratulations again. You can get up for one game every 8 to 9 games. But go join a conference. Go join a conference. Do what Houston did and prove it to me. Because Houston, what they've done this year, I'm like, okay, damn. I never thought the Mountain West was weak though. Wasn't that what they were before?
Houston? No, they were current the Conference USA.
Yeah, they were. They were something. Who knows?
AAU?
Yeah, yes, okay, that one.
AAT,
the American.
whatever it was.
He still has better competition than what Gonzaga plays.
Oh yeah,
and Gonzaga
but they stepped into the Big 12.
Every other year you hear that Gonzaga's like flirting with a conference, and then
Gonzaga. I mean,
9 straight second weekends though. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's good. But
I think
let's look at what they have been ranked versus where they've got, right? They're really a very similar program to Purdue.
They play to their seed for the most part. Yeah,
right.
For the most part, they play to their seed.
Well, and if you want to go deeper on the rabbit hole of the conference isn't that tough, like you might extrapolate that and say, well, maybe you're fresh in March because you're I mean,
they should be. Yeah,
you could certainly argue that.
But they're playing. I mean, they're playing their best basketball.
2 things can be true. They can be good.
Yeah.
On paper, they match up. On paper, they match up really well. Like Purdue matches up really well. Ike, or I think is that
245, 6'9", 245.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like he's a beast. Like he's a big boy, but like Zach should be able to handle it.
7'4", 310.
They've got players who have been shooting, like their wing players have been shooting the lights out. During the
thing that I'm impressed with more about Gonzaga than anything is the fact you've got 6 guys that score almost 10 points a game.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome, right? Yeah. And it shows that they've got a good rotation. There's a bit of a drop off after that 6-man, but that's a good rotation. That's
and that's what you want, because if they get in any foul trouble and there's a drop off after their 6th guy, that's good news.
That's been the rap on them all year, which is that they've got talent but they have no depth, and so like that's Purdue beat them in a kind of a war of attrition last time, but then it kind of got into the fairly comfortable kind of. Comfortable but close enough win. You know what I mean?
10-point win, right?
Yeah,
something
like
about those wins, about beating. They could, that fun little thing where they could have the same path that they had in Maui. Let's just, for those of you who, there's people probably worried about beating teams again that you already faced.
Sure.
Makes me nervous. I'm one of them.
Okay. What I'll say though is that was so long ago.
That was a long time.
That's like saying, oh, you played a team last season and now it was so long ago. These teams are not the same. They aren't the same. Purdue's not the same. Like, we didn't know what Purdue was going to be this year.
Lance Jones really hadn't hit his stride.
Right. Like, I think that's 30 games ago.
Right. I mean, and I don't think Heide or Colvin were in the rotation.
No,
they were not
at all.
They were.
So and now I think that they're going to be relied on a lot. Actually, I think Heide is going to see major minutes. He's basically taken Ethan Morton's spot in the rotation.
Surpassed him.
And so, but then the other part of that is that, hey, if he's not hitting, you can bring Ethan Morton on for some nice, five good defensive minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's an embarrassment of riches at that point. But you have to let it get to that point. It has to get to that point where Gonzaga is in foul trouble and kind of, struggling there. The biggest thing, we talked about this before, I think, you were talking about rebounds, like hitting their shot, like Purdue's got to hit their shots. To me, it is that Michael and I talked about it, Painter's mentioned it ad nauseum, but the turnover thing, the way to beat Purdue is to collapse on Zack Edey and force them into fast break turnovers. And all of a sudden, like, you're getting free points. The defense isn't set. Edey isn't clogging the middle. And, there's Painter says it's 13 or 14. For me, I counted 12 turnovers gets Purdue into hot water, and I don't want to be there.
You're teetering there, definitely at 12.
Exactly. So it's like less than 12, and that's where you want to be. Gonzaga typically doesn't force turnovers. They usually play teams straight up. They're a similar profile to Purdue, except they don't have the size of Zack. Again, on paper, the matchup is good, but like, they're familiar with Purdue. The one thing, though, J Money, to your point, and then like you had something else, but to your point, I don't think Zack and this team takes it for granted that they won 3 months ago against the team, like past Purdue teams may have, right? That would make it difficult to beat a team, twice in a year. Same thing, like beat Illinois, twice this year?
Twice.
There's the other stat, which is that Purdue is 7-0 against 6 of the top of the final 16 teams that are left standing.
I will say I don't want Illinois again. I'm not afraid of them,
great.
But I don't want
because
you would meet them in the Final Four, and I don't want to deal with
meet them in the championship, wouldn't they?
I think it'd be the championship. Yeah. So hopefully that's not.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'll
Of course.
it.
Hell yeah.
I'll try to win the lottery. I'll try to win the lottery once. We have a guest. It looks like
a guest. I've been downgraded to the status of a guest.
Well, we didn't know you didn't.
Some of our guests
come in
appear
through
more
the
than
employee
you. So.
entrance.
This is the second consecutive podcast that I've joined. So please,
it's a record.
Put some respect on my name.
it's almost as impressive as Gonzaga's 9-year second weekend streak. It's pretty good. Michael, 2 podcasts in a row.
Yeah. Oh, look at Jay.
You're late. We've already been through all this.
Okay, I'll save my jokes.
What jokes do you have?
No, I mean you're
They're out of
looking like a
jealousy.
mogul, like a Purdue mogul, like Orville Redenbacher himself.
Pool full of popcorn behind him.
Exactly.
I've often been compared
You're
to the
doing
most
the-
handsome Purdue
doing the-
grad. Yeah. So what do you have for us? Since you butted into our conversation.
Confidence. What I have is confidence.
That's awesome. Hey, you've been exuding a lot of confidence.
You actually said in our group chat, and I don't know if it was facetious or not, you said Purdue by 40 in the second round. You said
I did.
That morning you said Purdue by 40 today.
I did.
And they won by 39. So nice try.
Yeah,
So
If
I-
the price is right.
almost.
But close doesn't count.
Yes,
Or nothing.
No. We demand precision around here.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right. I know there's some facetiousness with the level of confidence you've had, but I also know
A little.
that's not usual for you to be.
Yeah,
No.
that's true.
I usually I'm a little bit more on the realistic side,
Yeah.
but I really do feel really good about this team. I feel really good about. I think I said this in the last podcast, but I feel that most teams except for UConn can play their absolute best against Purdue and still lose.
Yep.
And I don't think I would have said that in any previous tournament. That
Right.
doesn't guarantee that they're going to win, of course.
Correct. I get you.
It just means that this team is that locked in and that good. And I loved that second half against Utah State where Edey has 2 points and the rest of the team had 55.
More than they had in the first half.
More than they had in the
When
first
it would be natural to take your foot off the gas.
And I tweeted about that and got like one of my highest engagement tweets on that. I mean, people are noticing that this team
All
is
about
not
clicks with
just
you, huh?
You tweet so
clicks.
infrequently
That's how you make your money, though, Michael.
You only
get them
tweet home
clicks.
runs at this point. I mean,
It's because I rarely tweet.
That's
'Cause
what I
that
mean.
website is
You
garbage.
save up all the idea to boom, it comes out like a super weapon.
I do get fired up though, because I see these folks who supposedly follow college basketball as their job.
ISO, go for it.
We covered this, but I would like to hear your take.
Yes, I want to hear it. ISO.
and it's like, okay, maybe you've seen Purdue play, maybe you haven't. I'm guessing probably you haven't. And you hear this narrative that it's all Purdue does is just throw the ball into Edey and he fouls out the other team, and then he scores on a bunch of like 6-7 dudes and gets his 30 and 20, and it's like, it's not real basketball, it's ugly or whatever. And it's like, okay, if you've paid even the slightest bit of attention to Purdue at any point in the season, they've gotten better. They haven't changed who they are. Purdue has gotten better. They haven't changed who they are. So if you would tune into any game against any meaningful opponent, so anyone in the conference and then anyone outside of the real like low majors in the non-con, you would see a Purdue team that has a variety of ways to hurt you, and Edey is a huge part of that. Obviously, opens up a lot of things, but Purdue can run on teams without Edey going nuts. And if you are touting, as some in the media, although I don't know if Barstool technically counts as like media, they're more.
Did you hear
like,
that gushing by Barstool though?
Who?
No, thank you. I don't need to. I'm good. I'm good.
No, the head guy, whatever the douchebag is at the top.
Don't ever listen to anything Portnoy says ever. It'll make you stupider and more racist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Possible.
You're telling on yourself. If you're Mark Titus and you're talking about Purdue being a boring, slow team, you're telling
you are announcing that you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about. And that's like, again, Purdue is not flawless. Purdue can be beaten, especially if they turn the ball over. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to beat every team by 40, although I'll probably tweet that for every game here on out. But you're telling on yourself that you are either like bad at your job or lazy, not doing what you're supposed to be doing, supposedly,
Bingo.
or you are trying to drive up engagement by saying things that are false on purpose. I watched, unfortunately, like a lot of non-names on like Instagram talking about Utah State beating Purdue and all of that sort of stuff. And like, those are idiots, but I don't expect them to be anything other than, I watch college basketball too. It doesn't make me an expert on this stuff. But I
think you just hit on something, by the way, that we were talking about before you came on, that, I said, there's an immense amount of hate in the interwebs towards Purdue. And these guys said, no, it's only two guys. And I keep saying, I know you didn't say that. They said it's virtual and it's fake and it's drummed up. But I think what you just said, somebody in the margin said Reddit hates Purdue. But I think what you're saying, and it all makes sense. It's just groupthink, really, right? Yeah. And everybody having internet muscles. And if you follow Barstool and you're like, hey, they say Purdue sucks and they're boring, let's all jump on that, because this is really easy. And when we get all in our echo chamber, this is what we're going to talk about.
And that's natural, isn't it? Like, if I don't know about you, but I've caught myself. I'll listen to like a bunch of, YouTubers, or I'll watch recaps because you can't get enough when things are fun. And I'll hear something, and then I'll hear myself say it like on here, or like a tidbit from it, right? You'll pull. Now, if it's a statistical tidbit, then that's less about opinion, and that's more about here's what actually happened in a game. But it's so easy to like retain something that you wanted to hear, and then say it and be like, that's my opinion too. So to your point, that's exactly what happens. The groupthink is so easy. It's so. I'm not saying it's not understandable that that's what happens, but you should try thinking for yourself. Is so great.
Or just acknowledge what you don't really know, because like,
I know everything
in-depth knowledge of Alabama basketball? I don't.
Yeah, right.
Like, I've seen one or two games. I'm not an expert, and I can't really predict how good or how bad they're going to be.
Michael, when we saw Purdue about to play Alabama, we were all like, oh crap, they're pretty good. We were all like concerned about how they're coached, how they play, how athletic they are. We were like, ooh, okay. And we talked with respect about that, even if we don't like a program. The only program I feel like the programs that we say, man, that is crappy, ugly, unfun Wisconsin basketball, are programs we watch all the time.
We have a lot of familiarity with.
Yes.
Like I've got, decades of experience watching Wisconsin just commit.
That's not coming from a place of not knowing what you're talking about.
Right.
It's coming from having watched them many times.
But I think the other part here too is there is like Reddit does hate Purdue basketball, and somehow I still sleep okay at night. And the thing is that I think
I love it.
if you suck or you're just kind of okay, like no one hates you, right? People hate Purdue because Purdue is a good team, and Purdue will score 106 points on you in the second round.
And
Like,
that was the 20th ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
That keeps rattling around in my head that was not a crappy, barely qualified team. That was a good team, well coached, that won their league. They were 28-7.
I mean,
it was more of that coach next season.
Yeah, it was pretty consensus that Utah State was underseeded, right? I mean, like that was the big thing. And so if they would have ended up at a 6 or something like that, I mean, like then they would have
It's an odd defense, isn't it, to say? I mean, and I heard what's his nuts from CBS talking about this today. I watched it this afternoon. He said, "Yeah, they were underseeded, and he said nothing in the tournament hurts or helps my argument afterwards. I always just like, okay, that was now. This is that was then. This is now. The problem with it is you say they're underseeded, and then they look like they don't belong playing Purdue. That's kind of, I would say that hurts your argument, right?
Well, but or it's kind of building up what Purdue ended up doing to Utah State that game, right? I mean, like it just shows that you're kind of playing that at that level. I mean, at this point, and to Michael's point, like Houston almost collapsed. The only two teams really that are playing at that level, again, 2 games in, so it doesn't mean anything, are Purdue and UConn.
Can you bring up Brad Eban's comment? This pulls this out even further. So it makes it not just one cult of personality or a person who's a lot of people see, but Brad Eban says, "We're so passionate as a fan base. Barstool, Levitard, Aaron Torres got so many clicks from us." Okay. But all of those are pretty mainstream platforms. These are people with a big megaphone talking, right? And so the funny thing, I mean, we've heard some pretty like mean-spirited stuff from these people where you're like, what the hell? I went on Aaron Torres's Twitter feed, and I just went down there and I was like, he had 5 or 6 groups of tweets in a row talking about why Zack Edey sucks. And I'm like,
I just keep replying to people that he's the best player in college basketball. That's what I keep telling people.
If we win the title, I'm okay with it. If we win the title, I'm okay with it.
I'm not okay with any of it. I'll be honest. Like I feel like, and I don't feel like I need to protect his honor, but I'm like, you're a bastard. This kid does things well. This is one of the bright shining stars of yeah, exactly. Build up Filipowski and then break down Zack Edey. And all Zack Edey has to do is act like he's not human, be stone-faced all the time because you're going to be hurling insults at him.
What was it?
That? I'm sorry. That's not right. That is not right at all. And that stuff is where I get burnt up because I'm like, we haven't heard stories of, nobody has a story of Zack Edey being a jerk off court. I haven't heard one of them.
Yeah,
in fact, I hear great stories, and then I hear people amazed. By the way, there's one more thing, Jay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know if you guys heard the Grambling cheerleader story yet. This is good.
No.
Okay. No. So this was from In the Arena that Edey. So let's see, how did it work? So he went over, he spoke with the guys in post game, right? And then he had to go into the media room, right? So they had to rush him off the court. Okay. Right before he's rushing off the court, the Grambling cheerleaders stopped him. They said, "Can we get a picture with you?" And all I could think of was the dream team, right? The celebrity status there, right? That type of stuff makes people hate you, right? Because you've got the Grambling cheerleading squad says, "We want this guy's pretty interesting. The fact that he's big and he's nice to people."
As you said, the players and coaches that he plays, nobody comes away being like, "What a dick that guy is." Nobody.
It's never, and it's even the play style, even the fouls drawn. I mean, really, the only one that's complained about it is what's his nuts for Brad. No. Wisconsin's coach, Greg Gard. Mm-hmm. Really, Greg Gard is the only one who's complained, and nobody cares.
Exactly. Some pork.
The only Dan Levitard surprised me. Because
me too.
Most of the time he's fine.
But
he went on,
and the way he hit it hard, man.
Really personal on Zack Edey. And it's surprising because if you say that I mean, you can have a conversation about Zack Edey being dominant because physically he overpowers the opponent. That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And you want to talk about the basketball implications of that. That's fine. But to like turn that again into like a morality.
He said they were a plague.
Yeah.
He said they were a plague.
Yeah.
And he was a plague.
It's
up yours, dude.
It's like, okay, like what's really going on here? Like, why are you this worked up about this?
That's my point. Like, and if you want to counterpunch, like I feel like I need to all day long. Like I'm just like, just speak logically for a second. Tell me, like the people, give me one thing he does well other than being 7'4". I can give you 10 things he does well other than 7'4", and I eviscerate
watch a game
on Twitter.
Watch a game.
Free throws. Like that's an easy one. He's a 74% free throw shooter.
Let's not even watch him with the ball. Watch him run the floor and screen and box out. Which is probably what he's going to do. Running the floor, boxing out, high screen, like the actual contact he sets on his screens and the space he creates when it's team rebounding. Don't watch him with the ball because that's going to be his role in the NBA. Don't watch him with the ball. Those aren't elite skills that he has. With the size that he has, I mean, like he's running the floor better than wings.
And Zerbiak acknowledged on that Dan Patrick appearance that Edey can be effective in the NBA. He said if he's in position and he has his hands up, that's going to affect shots.
I don't care about his NBA prospects.
Yeah,
because
I know. I get it.
Just to remind people, like this is college basketball.
But that's the thing. Like to see his greatness, don't watch him with the ball. You want to see him with the ball. Like you want to see how great he is with the ball. Watch any highlight. Look at any stat line. Literally every stat line you see from him is otherworldly. But his skills without the ball are like real and stand out different than kind of everybody like that's trying to
compare. So to me, play where they isolated him in on him on a secondary break, getting up the court. He beat two Utah State, a guard and a wing up the court. Like I was like, that's impressive. Like he kind of hit the gas and he got right to the hoop.
It's kind of impressive on two. It's impressive on two levels, though, right? It's impressive because you're a 7'4" player that can do that after the amount of minutes that he's been playing. Right. But it's also impressive that the 1 seed on a Final Four favorite team, after 2 years of dominance, with a pretty comfortable lead against an 8 seed, still feels like they need to run the floor.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
That's
Sorry,
that
Michael.
IU diving on the floor play, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing, and that's an attitude that's been cemented over and over this season by this team. The way they work together. And this is where Zack Edey's lead by example style, just his leadership style, right? This is what it's cemented the whole program after. That's the thing. I know like the culture was already really, really good. But now you've got guys saying, okay, we just had a 2-time player of the year come through here that he busted his ass more than anybody.
He came my favorite.
Go ahead.
My favorite is Painter. Whenever he would see people shooting after Carson came, he was like, you don't practice as much as him. Like, if you practice, if you shoot as many times as Carson did, yeah, sure, then you can go ahead. But I don't see you doing that. Yeah. I mean, it was the thing. Like, I don't see you working as hard as Biggie, as Swanigan did here. So it's like, of course you're not going to be. That's the thing that kind of Zack is now in that, right? And he may be the best example of it, which is like, he always talks about, he wasn't recruited and that being a big part of it. And I think, especially for Carson as well, it was like Carson wasn't heavily recruited and he kind of turned into a flamethrower here at Purdue. I mean, obviously everybody knows Zack's story, which by the way, enjoy it. Enjoy every hockey mention, enjoy every pitching mention, enjoy every skating picture, enjoy every one of the same stories we've heard millions of times because we're only going to get maybe 2 more weeks of this. Yeah. And it's just savor it. Every story like it's the first time you've heard it because it's an incredible story and it's fun. That's the fun part about it. That's why I know J Money's talked about this. That's why we want, for me, I want 4 more wins. I know you don't not want 4 more wins. Yeah. But I want it more than 2. But I understand why that concentration of story and attention that you get during Final Four week is, you'll see the Zack story being told because it is one of the great stories in college basketball history.
And then and then rest easy because if you've accomplished that, you're going to go into the national semifinal as the favorite. The only team that I think they might not be favored against is UConn.
It's you.
And we've talked about this, and I'm fine with that because
they're a buzzsaw. I mean,
because they're a buzzsaw. But if that occurs,
meet.
Well, that's it. If it occurs, then Purdue has been that as well.
Yep.
So I'll take it. And
I think we're used to Purdue, us having to make the argument that Purdue is or could be better than what you see on the court, right? Like this is a thing. Like last year was one of those. To be honest, it's like we actually have guys who can shoot. They're not shooting very well, but like I promise, like they can shoot. That's been an argument that I've heard.
Right, that's the painter all last season. No, really, they're good shooters.
And it's like, well, until they do it. But this team is as good as you see. I don't have to exaggerate anything. We've got the 2-time National Player of the Year, presumptive. We have another kid who was a finalist for the Bob Cousy Award and a first-team All Big Ten, and we have the Big Ten sixth Man of the Year and the head coach of the year. Like all of these things paint a pretty nice picture of how good
masterpiece
Purdue is. And then you look back and see who they've beaten. They beat Arizona. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Tennessee. They've done the thing, and this wasn't a 4 overtime last second shot, boy, they got lucky thing. This was 10-point plus wins against very good teams.
It's something that could be sustainable in a rematch if they see them, again in the tournament, which they might.
Gonzaga is a different team now than they are before, but Purdue hasn't changed, but has gotten better. And the other point I want to make here is last year is a good example of a team where if one of your top 3 guys doesn't have a good game, you're going to lose. Purdue's going to lose, right? And that was very evident last year. That was evident in Sasha Stevanovic had a rough NCAA tournament and they lost. Like this is the thing. It's like, oh well, Purdue, the margin of error is a little bit tighter than what we would like. If Fletcher Loyer doesn't have a great game, if Braden Smith doesn't have a great game, it would take 4+ guys having bad games in order for Purdue to really be in danger. The wild card here, of course, I think is last point is that as a team, the way you beat Purdue is you turn Purdue over. If you get 14 or more turnovers against Purdue, Purdue is in a really rough spot. And then like after that, like there isn't anything else. That's the only thing.
Well, just to throw a couple quick things at you, Utah State actually had fewer turnovers than Purdue. So this is another thing that's crazy. It was 9-8. It's not like Utah State was sloppy or, they just didn't have. They were overmatched. They didn't shoot real well.
They shot real poorly, didn't they?
Yeah, but they didn't turn the ball over. They weren't sloppy with it. The fouls were
what did they shoot from the field? What percentage?
36%.
It's not as bad as I thought it was.
Not as bad, right? Right, and but you look at Purdue. Like I said this, Michael, before you jumped on. Braden Smith still has not had a good tournament game, and I look at that as it's coming. It's coming. He's going to have his game, and he hasn't yet. And they've not even. They won by 28 and 39.
It would be fun if it came against the team that kind of came after him for good reason. I mean, because Braden's a great player. They came after him in NIL, but I don't want to. But I'm not a fan. Again, in this era of college basketball, if you're not trying to get poached, you don't have good players. Like that is what it is. I want Braden to show out against Gonzaga. I mean that would be fun.
Also, Lance has not had
Lance.
Lance hasn't played well
He hasn't played well, but he's also still contributing. You know what I mean?
His defense. He stopped Martinez. Yeah. He stopped him. He dead in his tracks. Martinez was looking really good, and then all of a sudden you're screeching halt. But Heide threw a couple wrenches at him too, which was great to see.
Well, so Nembhard on Gonzaga. I mean, that's going to be that's going to be Lance's assignment. I think.
I like that. That's the thing. People keep talking to me about him. I'm like, he's not his brother. He's not his brother. And I like Lance Jones in that matchup.
On paper, I actually think Purdue matches up very well against Gonzaga. Again, that's not to say Purdue can't lose. Gonzaga's a really good team, and they're on a hot streak. But like Purdue should be like, again, Gonzaga, to Michael's point, doesn't really force people into turnovers, right? Like that's not part of their defense, and that's like the kind of people that you get kind of nervous about.
Yeah,
players
what
you
the
get nervous
what the
about.
hell is that doing?
Yeah,
on
Yeah,
this
I don't know
podcast?
what he's. Well, he when we took a visit to the Triangle.
The shirt's tough, though.
Good. I
Is
have
it a
two.
North Carolina? Is it
Yeah,
a
it's a
North
UNC
Carolina
shirt.
shirt?
I have to admit, I kind of dig this shirt.
Well,
I mean, it's a good.
Okay,
He
I'll
says
go
coming
call
back.
that sweatshirt.
He was getting wow, peer pressure. He just faded under it. Every campus that we visited, because we went to the Triangle, went to NC State and UNC. He went to Illinois. He went to Colorado. He went to Baylor. Of course, you got Purdue, you got Cincinnati, but he got a T-shirt at every one of them. So he's got like a pretty sick collection of these because that's all he wanted to do. He's like, give me a shirt. So yeah, it's a cool shirt.
You're way more generous than my father, who, when I approached him and said, I've got a list of schools that I would like to think about going to, he, without looking up, said that you're going to Purdue, and then kept reading whatever it was that he was reading. So he was like, he told me that if I wanted to,
He was reading the Star or News, I'm sure, right?
that I could pay for the fee to like submit an application, but that just to know that the only school he was going to pay for was Purdue.
That's fair. I mean, but let's be honest. Where did little Boiler end up going to? So it was all a ruse. Letting him go to places and buy shirts and all that. That was
My
all
whole
just
thing.
to
I'll
get
be
it
real
out of the
honest, and I
system.
can tell him the tactic now, and I think he knew it. I think I showed my cards early, but my whole thing was I want you to choose Purdue, and I want you to look at really good options. I want it to be your choice. I want it to be good choices. I want
But I want you to make the
very-
right choice.
I want you to make the right choice, but I want it to be yours, right? I mean, that's
Did
the
you
thing.
sweat?
Like,
Did you sweat a little bit when you got the tuition breakdown from Baylor, which I think is like the third most expensive school?
I can say Baylor wasn't.
They gave me half.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
okay.
and he got a lot of that.
It was still like triple or
Because it's like
compared to Purdue.
65 a year.
Yeah.
or
Good
something like
gracious.
Yeah, Wake Forest is
Baylor's-
the one we didn't even visit because we're like, okay, that's dumb. Like that's stupid. Like I saw the numbers, I was like, they're more than Duke, and Duke wasn't. He was like, I don't want to go Duke. He's pretty frugal, and we've got a deal. We're not going to get into the finances, but we're both going to have skin in the game when he goes to college, right? And so, depending upon what he chose and which places, he's like the three of you guys. He's a smart guy. He's not like his dad. So he actually got really good offers from places, and some of them he just turned them down. So, but
I mean, that's smart. Let's see. I was in my mid 30s before I paid off the family student loans. So yes, good choice.
yeah. And then you took that loan out from me for a car, which was weird. I don't know why you. Even
Well, I
asked
told
for
you it was for a car, but I never actually told you what it was for.
I gave you $30,000.
It was we put it to interesting use. Let's just put it that way.
A lot of chickens.
Look at the room he's sitting in.
A lot of chickens
right.
happening. A
A
lot,
lot
of
of
chickens.
chickens.
A lot of chickens.
This is-
Well,
So
it's not just the chickens.
when we hung up from the when we went off the air, I should tell everyone here just briefly. Michael told several stories about murdering fowl. So
I gotta tell you, my respect level for you, it was high, and it went. I was like, holy moly,
he's more of a man than you realize.
he is a bad dude.
He's,
I don't-
yeah.
He's a
Is
bad,
that an
man.
invitation to tell this story, or are we getting back?
No,
No.
we'll do Michael's corner. We've got to save this for the off season.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'd love to do it now.
That'd be a great off-season
We get
podcast.
boiled shorts. The
He
summer
literally
off-season.
told us how you kill a chicken.
But don't go.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
go
not how
any
you
further.
think.
Don't go any
Don't
further,
give
'cause it's
it-
a good story.
Yeah, no,
Tease
I
it,
wanted to
tease
tease
it.
it.
All I'm gonna
And there's
all I'm gonna
there's
say-
multiple ways.
all I'm gonna say about that story, and I'm happy to have a Michael's corner this summer to talk about. But all I will say is, when you do what I did, you have to be very careful about who you tell that story to. That's all I'm gonna say about what happened there.
Oh man. Oh,
So,
by the way, someone asked.
my-
That's a good opportunity. Someone said if they were hungry and they're on campus, and they actually said if they were near the fire station, where should they go?
I mean, if you're near the fire station, you're already smelling some delicious.
Let me think.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
You're smelling some mac
I
and
know,
cheese
I know a
bites.
place.
Where would you go?
I know a
I
place.
think I would go to AJ's.
I know
already
I'd go to
there.
AJ's. I wouldn't
He's
think
get-
about it. My nose would
Boiler
pull
down.
me in, and then my mouth would be so happy.
LBD is already getting the NIL deal from
right,
AJ's.
Yeah.
He already told me that my son has a job when he gets to Purdue. So, Mike, I don't know if you got that offer. You'll probably be busy studying, as will my son, because he's smarter than me as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, he was already offered a job at AJ's. So that's nice.
It's pretty awesome. It's pretty great. I just thought of something you told me the other day, and that would okay. I'm going to bring that back. I'm not going to put too much stuff from behind the curtain, but anyway, the whole thing about LBD going to Purdue is that I know everybody thinks that like I was dragging him by his nose, or there was one option. I don't think that's fair. Do you?
No.
All right. I'm not that type of guy. I know everybody thinks I am. I'm really not. And I'm totally excited about him going, but that's the funny thing. Like we went on all these other campus visits, and I'd wear Purdue gear.
Oh yeah, that's a given. Obviously.
Yeah.
I think it still surprises some people at Pitt that I'm a Purdue alum, and I think that speaks well to me, right? Like I'm not being obnoxious about it. I think, because otherwise,
I see. They're surprised
you know what I mean?
They find out.
Exactly. It still comes as a surprise. I'm able to keep a little bit of a veneer here of professionalism, and that I got a home field Pitt hoodie over there. That's that's my work hoodie, but. Yeah, exactly. It's nice. It's big.
People don't know you as a Purdue guy automatically.
I try not to make.
And he tries to go vanilla on his personality. At work.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. There are a few people that know my alter ego online, but it is what it is. But yeah, we're almost. I know that we pledged to get close to an hour on our podcast instead of an hour.
If we could stay under 90 minutes,
let me ask you guys about something real quickly. I think this is a good question. You guys have all watched the pressers this week about how Painter's acting. I think Painter is so much more sharp and direct. I know he's always been good in press conferences, but am I seeing things? Am I reading into it more than usual, or has he really got an edge right now?
No, I've got a quick comment, and then I'll answer that. First of all, Anish was clearly trying to bring this home. Dowd interrupts him to ask an open-ended question.
Let's go a half an hour. Let's go a half an hour.
I just love that. That was amazing.
But it's a 4-minute question. We'll get it done, and we're gonna have it 1 hour and 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll take 3.5 minutes. No, I think he's always been really good, and now he's getting more of that attention. And I think when you ask him like a dumbass question, and you give him the opportunity to show off the type of person that he is. That was fortuitous for his reputation.
Well, it wasn't just the dumb question about, oh, you're probably going to win tomorrow, right? It was the question that he was asked about
Edey.
the Edey just being tall, and his saying you should have to take a test. And he qualified it well. He said, if you're an official, you should have to understand coaching. If you're a coach, you should have to understand officiating. Right. And he said, if you're on Twitter and you say something stupid, you shouldn't be allowed to tweet for, what did he say, 3 months?
He said 3 months. He was like, society would be better off.
He's completely right. There's nothing he's saying that's wrong. It would be great if it filtered out stupidity. Oh, my goodness.
I want to know who designs the algorithm. That's the only problem I've got.
I think
I've got a lot of opinions. Don't know if you know
I think Painter is, though, he's getting to that comfort level that I think, I mean, like, this is his stride, right? Like we saw him grow, like in multiple kind of phases of the career, right? It was the Baby Boilers phase, and then that down, like the 2013 or 12 and 13 year, and then the kind of Biggie Carson kind of era, and now this Edey post Edey era. It seems to be that's kind of what everything has kind of built towards. But it's still strange that like he still sees himself as the caretaker of the program, but he's not really the coach. Like he's not the face of the program. He doesn't see himself like Kay saw himself at Duke. He doesn't see himself like Self maybe. sees himself as the face of Kansas. He's the current caretaker of Gene Katie's program. And he still kind of handles himself like that, but now he's a little bit more comfortable making fun of the whole kind of process, or like standing up and confidently kind of doing this. What I do like is that he manages to make light of some of those press conference situations without belittling the person on the other end, right? Which is often what a lot of these kind of viral moments do. Like the kind of it's fun, but the kind of byproduct of that is that it really kind of, you're disrespecting a human on the other side of that, and that kind of is a bad look. Like if you think about it a little bit,
Doesn't it kind of depend on the situation? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but if you say something disrespectful, I don't think anything that was asked of Painter was disrespectful.
No. But
some of it was silly, but it wasn't.
No. I'm talking the other way. I think a lot of times they're asked silly questions, and coaches will disrespect they'll go the next report. Exactly. They'll kind of take it too far.
Easy for him to respond to that student reporter by being like, "Are you kidding me? What kind of question is that?
Yeah.
What are you doing?" All that sort of stuff.
Go on a Bobby Knight, like it's a Bobby Knight tirade, right?
Which would have been fair, but instead he conveyed all of that through that awesome German Shepherd head tilt that he did. Like, and then he went into like a very like, let me explain something to you. It was great. Loved it. It was a perfect way to do this. And like, Patrick in the comments, he is so good at delivering sarcasm. Like he is that line about Edey being tall. Like it was like seeping out of his mouth, just dripping with sarcasm. It was fantastic. I love that answer.
Yeah, I think there are people that think that he may have even known that question was coming, because that's a plant question. That's from one of the brags in the stands. I mean, he didn't feel that one, but I think he wanted to see Painter's response, and I hope maybe he didn't know that. It was awesome though. It was brilliantly crafted and gave Payne a chance to really get on the stage and do something big there. So do you think? How about this question? Is Paint going to be able to add a wrinkle enough? Because this, Michael, you hit on something earlier that Purdue is Purdue pretty much. They do the same thing they did before. We've seen them add 2 pieces of personnel. Mark Few is a good coach. The biggest knock on Painter, I think, has been as a coach in the postseason is it's the same Painter, the same Purdue. You know what you're doing. You can counterpunch it. Is it so simple that you can counterpunch it, or is it that Zack Edey is impossible to counterpunch?
Yeah, particularly with the personnel that Gonzaga brings. I don't know what and the depth and the style of play. I don't know what they will be able to do. Creighton, as you mentioned, Tennessee, they worry me. I mean, like Houston with that aggressive defense, that they worry me. But again, that's kind of further down the road, right? I do think Mark Few is a really good coach, but strangely, I'm not worried about this, but that does not mean that I won't be worried like at tip-off, and that I don't think that Purdue can lose this. It's going to be a very good game of two of the kind of better playing teams of the last couple months, but I don't think that Purdue needs to deviate too much from, or will be forced to deviate too much from their identity on Friday.
The only thing that would cause Painter to implement a wrinkle that we've seen maybe only once or twice this season is if Braden Smith gets into foul trouble and their guards start struggling bringing the ball up, initiating the offense. And then you start to see him do things like have Lance bring the ball up, and you start to see a little bit more of like a change in personnel, because if Braden's out of the game, he's not really playing very well. Fletcher Loyer is not great on defense, so then you have to pull like Heide into to guard someone like on the perimeter when really he's really good at that like 3-4. You start to like see that sort of ripple effect, but we've actually seen that a couple of times this season, and they did just fine. So I don't know if there's going to be anything. I don't think they could play 4 more games. And I don't think we're going to see anything that we're like, whoa, we haven't seen this yet this season.
We just looked at how Gonzaga bowed out of the tournament, just because LBD asked a question. Do you guys remember how they got out of the tournament last year?
It was not memorable.
I don't remember. No,
it's memorable.
I mean, but to most people, unless you're a Gonzaga fan, you're not going to remember that game.
Well, I mean, see, Connecticut's path last year, so I just gave it away. Connecticut
That's
went through
right.
'em, and
That's
they went
right.
through 'em. It was like what 28
Yeah,
points.
they played a great. Gonzaga played a great game against UCLA. That one was a 3-point game. They won regulation. I think they hit a 3, and then they lost UConn by 30.
But Connecticut's path so interesting last year because they went through the tournament without being challenged. Really, like
Yeah.
you look at the differential, it was crazy.
Didn't they win everything double digits?
Yep.
I feel like every game they won by double digits, which
as a 10 seed, right? Or as
No.
No.
They were like
I think they
4
were
or 5.
3. Yeah.
Oh, were they that?
Or 4. Yeah, there you
I
go.
misread the thing. They were ranked 10. But yeah.
Yes.
Duke hasn't lost to a seed higher than them, or is that right?
Yes.
I saw it today since 1995.
And they lost to Purdue.
Yeah.
Or they beat Purdue. They haven't. No, that's wrong. They haven't beaten a team that was a
that's right. That's what it is.
higher seed or than them since Purdue.
Big dog.
in 1990.
Yeah, but that's because
They're never. They're
always
always
a
a
top
1 or
team.
2 or whatever. I mean, like,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right. And then like last year they lost in the Final Four to was it last year they lost to UNC? They did, right? No, 2 years ago?
2
Last
years, because that was like 2 years ago, because that was
UNC
that
didn't
was-
have such a great season last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
Well, they didn't have such a great season 2 years ago, and they went to the Final Four. They were like an 8. I know this because that's who Purdue would have had to beat if they'd beaten St. Peter's.
Baycott had a really
How's
great
Baycott
season.
still around? He's another one where I'm like, they talk about Baycott, and
used
I'm like,
all-
that dude was there 2 years ago making
Because
big.
he's not a super great NBA prospect, and his NIL deal must be.
He's speaking of Gonzaga. He's
well
like
over
Drew
$2 million
Timmy.
a year.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the what was that? What was the commercial? TurboTax.
Yeah. He's got.
Oh yeah, the Oakland shooter. Yeah. But
That they
I'm
filmed
still
in the
Baycott.
hallway of the hotel. he
it's the
was
best.
staying
That
in.
is what NIL is for. These rapid deals. Yes, go for it.
No. Did you see Baycott is on a real TurboTax commercial?
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You guys don't watch the commercials, I guess. I mean,
No,
Good for
thank
watch
you.
the best part of the tournament.
That's right. That's what he says. He's
We're
like the
missing-
Super Bowl. I just can't wait for the commercials to be played over and over and over and over and
That's
over.
the
Let's
same
go
4
sports
commercials.
guy.
That's great.
We really should do more to support these great networks that try so hard to bring us quality basketball programs.
That's right. Yeah. Really tune into the commercials. Really enjoy it. So, well, guys, I think we did a pretty good job. I'd like to stretch it. I told these guys behind closed doors that I think every Handsome Hour basketball beat should be 3 hours.
I think
Yeah.
maybe 4.
Maybe 4.
Fair
Really
goal.
test the mettle of the listener and see if how much they really enjoy hearing people talk about nothing.
But since it sounds like you want to wrap, I want to just go around. It's time to let's talk about it. What's going to happen? What is your official
Purdue by
predict-o? Just this week. Just
What'd you
Friday.
say, Michael?
Purdue by 40 on Friday.
I think
really?
Purdue. I'm hesitant to put this in recording because we all know how this works. I'm not just like Utah State. I am not worried about Gonzaga
Nothing we
because
do
on
here
paper
has any impact on that.
Yeah, but that doesn't. I gotta wear this jersey. I have my undershirt that I wear underneath it. It's all
fine.
very well
It's fine.
thought out. No, I think Purdue matches up really well with Gonzaga. I am more concerned about Tennessee. I think if it's Creighton, it'll be a really good game, and Purdue will end up in the Final Four.
Get to the point. Purdue versus Gonzaga. What are you at? None of this.
No. Purdue Gonzaga.
Get at it.
Purdue Gonzaga. I think it's a double-digit one.
All right. That's what I was going for.
Number. Give me a number. Is it
14.
67.
What is
13.
14.
14. You are so hard to nail down. 14.
He's so slippery. It's like wet spaghetti.
Creighton, not talking about Creighton. Talking about Gonzaga.
You said the whole weekend. You said what's going to happen to the whole weekend, and I skipped forward because I'm not really worried about Gonzaga, even though I should be.
Well, I mean, it's not just on paper that we know that the Purdue matches up well. I mean, we've seen it
That's it.
Right.
on neutral court.
All right, LBD, what's your prediction?
I think Purdue wins by 10 plus 2. I mean, maybe it'll be 8 or something, but I think Purdue wins.
Okay, that's how you do a prediction.
I mean,
Yeah.
Here's the weird thing. I had utter confidence yesterday, and my confidence has already been shaken. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I want
It is
all
a
of the opportunity
Roller
that comes
coaster in your head.
with. Oh yeah, it's horrible. This time of year, it's bad. It's part of the reason that during games I can't have many people around because it's a stressful situation for everybody. I'm gonna say Purdue in a close one.
No.
Like,
Single digit?
close, like
Less than
one
5?
possession.
Woof.
All right. Jay?
Barf.
I said 13. 80-67. I'm
Cowards.
giving you a score.
Cowards. Purdue by 40.
They're not going by 40. If they won by 28 and 39, if they win a third game by over 20,
You're not
don't
going
know.
to convince me. You're not going to convince me.
I'm not going to do what?
Convince me.
No, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. I would be so excited if they won another game where when was the last important Purdue game where you had a zero stress second half? Like zero stress.
I mean, this whole weekend, it was stunningly no stress. Like, I guess the first half against
10 minutes of each
Grambling,
game.
but like I wasn't stressed against Grambling. Like I wasn't really stressed against Utah State ever.
You could see the seams tearing there pretty quick, and you're like, oh yeah, here it comes. Brother, you said you were watching with everybody, and you're like, oh, here it comes, everybody. It's going to get bad.
Yeah.
You could see it. And you could see it in Utah State.
Yep.
The Utah State one went from what, like a tie game to like 12 points in like
Yeah,
second.
it was like, oh, they're up by 7 now. How did that happen?
And now they're up by 12. Uh-oh. And then they hit that 3 right before then Lance banks in a 3
Banks
before
it
half.
in, exactly.
I was like, good night. That's all.
You guys have probably seen this stat on Twitter, but Edey scored 2 out of the 57 points in the second half. So
I saw it live, in fact, not just on Twitter.
I did.
I watched the game.
The stat. Yeah.
I watch
We
all the
watched it
tournament
on
games.
the
I did
TV
watch
in
the
order to
game
support
also.
these networks that are providing us college.
Exactly.
I watch all
all
Purdue tournament games unless I'm at a wedding.
Anytime I can make True TV's numbers go up,
That's right.
I was
It's
at a
such great
wedding. I was at a
network.
wedding Friday night, and of course, people at the wedding knew who I wanted.
I don't talk about my Purdue fandom. I don't want people to
Well, right, and literally at the start of the game, I had multiple people doing the har. Oh, Purdue's already losing. Oh, Edey just went down. I said to a couple guys, I was like, this, it's not
break their
funny.
knees. This
it's
is break their
stupid.
knees.
Not even clever. Wait till the game's an hour old before you make those stupid comments that make you look stupid, and you should
It's like
feel
you
stupid.
can't say anything that I haven't already said to myself.
Exactly.
All right. You're going to have to dig real deep to come up with something I haven't heard before.
Right.
So
Or
let's not
thought.
turn this wedding into a funeral. Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh man.
Well, I hope I'm very wrong. I hope Michael's right. And I'd like my stress to not be something
so
that
great.
bothers me and eats at me, but it's
I-
We're going to have a
Nope.
podcast a week from now, and we are not going to go through a half of stress. 4 halves of no stress is what's going to happen when we
Whoa.
pod a week from now.
I'm not sure I'm ready to say that about the Sunday game, but okay.
I mean, did you guys? I mean, that Tennessee game, that first one when Purdue played, that was like one of the worst games I've ever watched.
Not going to lie, Tennessee has me worried, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
I don't want to talk
we're-
about how
You said-
I
you
hate
said 4
everything
halves.
you're doing.
I know. I said 4 halves.
But he also thinks they're going to play Creighton, so
I do think Creighton's going to win it.
I do 3. The Rick Barnes factor is going to come in at some point for Tennessee.
people say that all the-
One X factor.
Barnes is fine. People
He's
need to stop
fine.
with this. Barnes is fine. He's a fine
he's
coach.
not.
He's
No,
been
he's
to a
not.
Final Four. He's a fine
He had
coach.
Superman on his team.
Okay, we've lost the plot.
Come on.
Well, he has the second.
We've
best
lost
player.
the plot. No, we haven't.
Connect is not Kevin Durant.
He's
Durant
But he's
wasn't
your
on that
damn
team.
tongue.
Durant
He
was
wasn't
not on that
Yeah,
team.
Durant wasn't. on
No,
the
it was
Final
not
Four.
Durant's team. Wrong. You are
Was
incorrect.
it
He couldn't get to a
Aldridge's
Final
or
Four with
Ford's team?
Durant. He could not
He
get to a
didn't
Final
get to the
Four.
Final Four Durant.
got
So
something
you're building my argument, aren't you?
It was TJ Ford, I think.
TJ Ford, yeah. That's what I say. TJ Ford equals Braden Smith. Look it up. Look
Guys
up
naming
the
dudes.
numbers, look up the height and weight. They are the same guy.
The
And I
only
know
difference,
it's
length of the
impossible
shorts.
to go cross races and compare people, but I'll do it.
It's okay.
I'm
No, it
great
makes
like
you more progressive. I like it.
Yeah.
You're not
yeah.
being limited. You're not restraining. You're not being.
Yeah, they
no.
had that's right. They had TJ Ford and they had another guy that went to the league, right? On
Yeah.
that team.
Well,
They had this absurd. He had so much talent,
And
for
they
about
went
a
to the
4 or
Final
5
Four.
year span. So much talent at Texas because
Right.
bags of cash were being just shipped out, right? So much talent.
oh, Joe Inslee says it was Chris Mim.
Chris Mick,
Yeah, TJ Ford and Chris Mim. Yep.
they're good.
Guys naming dudes.
Guys naming dudes. I love that.
No, not on that roster. It was 4.
I'm
But
just saying. I don't think. I think Rick Barnes is unfairly maligned.
Royal Ivy. They had Royal Ivy. They had 3 NBA players on that Texas team.
Yeah, they went to the Final Four. What's your point?
Congratulations. Rick Barnes, I'm telling you, so many opportunities. So many opportunities.
I agree. Matt Painter, many opportunities.
Yeah, I know. This is the one that's
the good thing about Painter's youngish still.
We'll pod a week from now,
Rick
and
Barnes may not be alive anymore. It's hard to tell. He may be
exactly. We'll pod a week from now, and we'll see if we'll be in a good or bad mood here at the end of that.
Yeah.
I actually think either way.
I don't
honestly,
dislike. I don't like. I don't.
No,
dislike
don't
him.
say it, Anish. Don't say that.
What did he say?
Don't say it. I know what you're going to say.
What's it
very
gonna
good,
say?
very good, very good.
After when we go off air, but not on air.
Sounds good.
Don't say it.
Wait, I don't know what was going on there.
I don't either.
No, I'm
Nice.
just-
You're right. You're right. Purdue by 40. You're right.
Purdue by 40. Good night and sweet dreams. Thank you for listening to the Handsome Basketball Beat Hour.
Love you guys. Good night. I don't know. Is that the end?